Hi, it's Diane Benchkowski, Town of Cheektowaga Supervisor. We're opening the work session today, October 27th. Madam Clerk, could I have a roll call, please?
Give me 1 second. I'm just letting one of the council members in.
Okay.
Roll call. Councilmember Christine Adamczak.
Here.
Councilmember Linda Hammer.
Here.
Councilmember Gerald Kaminsky.
Present.
Councilmember Brian Noah.
Present.
Councilmember Brian Pilarski.
Present.
Councilmember Richard Rusiniak.
Here.
And Supervisor Diane Benchkowski.
I'm here. Okay, we have everyone in attendance tonight. First item of business, I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of attorney-client privilege. I need a second. Councilmember Pilarski, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carried. Okay, so we're going to keep the meeting running. We're going to exit and go into the executive session and hopefully be back by around 5:30. Madam Clerk, are you on with us?
I am on with you.
Oh, good, thank you. I was gonna try to text you. I'm sorry, I didn't give you a heads up. So, I need a motion to come out of executive session. We have, Councilmember Kaminsky, seconded by Councilmember Hammer. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. 5:47, we came out. Okay. Item number 3 is, items of discussion. First, we have, Robert Ambrose. Are you here with us? Or somebody from his office?
Yes, we're here.
Oh, good. Okay. So you're first on the agenda. I'm sorry that we held you up so long, about, giving us a presentation about the new pedestrian bridges going over the 33 and the I-90.
We have a presentation to share with you, so let me just share screen. Oh, could the host please enable screen sharing so we can show our presentation?
You're all set.
Thank you. Oop.
Yeah.
Good evening. This is Sanjot Vaidya. I'm the Regional Design Engineer. I just want to begin by thanking Supervisor Benskowski and the Town Board for letting us present our project at today's meeting. We are going to be discussing the plans for the pedestrian bridges over the New York 33 ramps by the Thruway. We have prepared a short presentation to go over what we are proposing. And Robert Ambrose, who's the designer, will now walk us through the presentation.
Thank you, Sanjot. This project that we're working on is located in the town of Cheektowaga at the intersection of New York State Thruway I-90 and the Kensington Expressway. In particular, we're going to discuss the 2 pedestrian ramps that cross over the 33 I-90 exit and entrance ramps. The pedestrian bridges were built in 1968 to provide pedestrian access across the thruway. In the last 20 years, the bridges have gone through a series of maintenance repairs. In 2004, temporary steel stud support columns were installed. The bridges were closed for most of 2006 for repairs to the stairs. The bridges were again closed through most of 2014 for other concrete repairs. In 2018, the pedestrian bridges were closed indefinitely. This project was initiated in September of 2010 with research and public outreach throughout 2011 and 2012. The project was placed on hold in December of 2014 until a funding source could be identified. Funding was made available in 2017 and the project was reinitiated. The project is currently in the preliminary design phase. The objectives of this project are as follows: to address the safety deficiencies of the pedestrian bridges using cost-effective techniques, and to provide ADA-compliant pedestrian and bicycle access across the New York State Thruway I-90. A study was conducted during 2011, recording pedestrian and cyclist traffic on the pedestrian bridges for 1 year. As you can see here, the observed usage was light, with an average of 18 individuals a day in the summer and spring months. During this time, the New York State Department of Transportation met with stakeholders, town officials, and schools to discuss the community's needs. In the fall of 2012, these results were presented to the public. During a meeting with the town of Cheektowaga, the New York State Department of Transportation presented a plan to reach out to the local residents, asking for their input on the future of the pedestrian bridges. 5,000 surveys were hand-delivered in September of 2019 to the properties between Harlem Road, Cleveland Drive, Union Road, and Genesee Street. In addition to being able to return the surveys via conventional mail, the public had the option to fill out these surveys online. The surveys gathered information from residents regarding their usage of the pedestrian bridges, the frequency at which the bridges were used, the types of trips that were taken, and their preference on replacing or removing the existing pedestrian bridges. Out of the 5,000 surveys that were handed out, 290 responses were received either by mail or online. 136 responders indicated that they would not use the bridges if they were replaced. 90 responders indicated they would use the bridges for recreational purposes. And 48 responded that they would use the bridges for non-recreational purposes. The survey revealed a low rate of expected usage for the replacement bridges, with less than 1% of those surveyed indicating that they would use the bridges for non-recreational purposes. Additionally, the department has not received any inquiries or complaints regarding the closure of the bridges since they were closed in 2018. New York State Department of Transportation met with the town of Cheektowaga officials to share the results of the survey. The town expressed interest in an alternative providing pedestrian facilities that would benefit the greater portion of the community. 3 alternatives were considered and eliminated from further study. The bridge rehabilitation would retain the existing bridges, repair the identified structural deficiencies, and replace the stairs with ADA compliant ramps. The cost to rehabilitate these bridges is over 85% of the replacement cost, and therefore no longer considered. The bridge removal and route termination alternative would remove the existing structures without providing an alternative structures or pedestrian access routes. This alternative does not meet the project objectives and therefore is no longer considered. The bridge removals with localized pedestrian improvements would remove the existing bridges and provide pedestrian improvements limited to the area near the existing routes. This alternative does not meet the project objectives and therefore is no longer considered. 3 alternatives were considered for further study. The no-build alternative assumes no improvements. This option is always retained to serve as a baseline to which the feasible alternatives can be compared. The bridge replacement on existing alignment alternative would remove and replace the pedestrian bridges with ADA compliant bridges at their existing location. The cost to replace the bridges is over 3 times the cost of the subsequent preferred alternative. Public outreach resulted in little support to reestablish the existing pedestrian bridges. This alternative was dropped due to the cost considerations and the lack of a demonstrative need. The bridge removal with pedestrian improvement alternative would remove the pedestrian bridges and provide alternative pedestrian access routes north to Cleveland Drive and south to Genesee Street. This alternative meets the project objectives using cost-effective methods and is therefore our preferred alternative. The preferred alternative would provide 2 alternate ADA-compliant pedestrian access routes that will provide connections between the communities on either side of the I-90. These routes were developed in coordination with the town of Cheektowaga officials. Bicyclists will continue to use local streets and have access to cross over the I-90 at both Cleveland Drive and Genesee Street. The existing closed bridges would be removed. The northern route would improve the existing sidewalk system to provide an ADA-compliant pedestrian access route. The route would run from Maryville Drive, up Rosary Boulevard, Heather Road, and Lockland Drive, cross over the thruway at Cleveland Drive, and back down Beach Road to Maryville. This would include 3,650 feet of sidewalk replacements. 26 curb ramps would be upgraded to ADA compliance, and 4 properties would be affected with minor strip or corner right-of-way takes. The southern route would improve the existing sidewalk system and fill in sidewalk gaps to provide an ADA compliant pedestrian access route. The route would run from Maryvale Drive down Beach Road, cross over the thruway at Genesee Street, and back up Elwood Place and Cedar Grove Circle to Maryvale Drive. This would include about 1,600 feet of sidewalk replacements and 1,350 feet of new sidewalk along Beach Road. 31 curb ramps would be upgraded to ADA compliance. 22 properties would be affected with minor strip or corner right-of-way takes. The New York State Department of Transportation will be streaming a virtual public information meeting via YouTube on November 12th at 6 p.m., reiterating the information that was provided today. The link for that meeting is provided here. Design approval for this project is anticipated in December of this year. Bids for construction are anticipated in June of 2023, with the construction completion by the end of 2024. Your questions and comments regarding this project are most welcome. If you have any questions after the meeting, you can submit them via mail or email to the contact listed here. The New York State Department of Transportation will answer any questions regarding this project at this time.
Council members, thank you, Robert Ambrose. Thank you for the nice presentation. I'm going to ask the council members if they want to make any comments or have any questions.
I just have a question about sidewalks. You're gonna be putting new sidewalks all the way around. Are those going to be wider than a current sidewalk?
The sidewalks will be 5 feet wide.
As opposed to now, what are they now, about 3?
In most areas, the sidewalk is 4 feet wide. And where we're replacing small sections, it would likely match what's out there. But if we're doing any long stretch of sidewalks, we would be replacing it with 5 foot wide sidewalks.
Okay,
The
thank
current
you.
sidewalk that's in good shape will be retained. It'll be the non-compliant sidewalk or where there's existing gaps in the sidewalk system that will be replaced or installed new.
Okay. I was kind of just thinking about people with a small front yard and, putting a 5 foot sidewalk in there, they might lose most of their front yard.
Most of the sidewalks that are out there right now are 4 foot wide. I don't think we recorded anything less than 4 foot when we did our survey of the area.
But as we indicated in our presentation, there is going to be altogether between the two routes about 30 takes, and they are going to be very minor in nature. So I don't think there will be impacts of the kind that you're worried about. I don't think we will have those kinds of impacts of that
Okay.
severity.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, Mr. Ambrose and your associates, thank you so much for the presentation and for the improvements to the town of Cheektowaga.
Well, thank you for your time today, and we will be in touch regarding this project in the future.
Okay, thank you again. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next on our list is the proposed new development. It's a state-of-the-art climate-controlled self-storage facility at 390 Cayuga Road. Whose project is this? I don't know.
Good evening, Madam Supervisor. Corey Auerbach
Oh,
from Barclay Damon. I'm joined this evening by representatives of the applicant from WA Engineering, Jim Bob McElroy, Jim Burt, as well as my associate Ari Goldberg. May I share my screen with the board?
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Did it show up on your screens?
No, it just has started screen sharing.
Okay. Try this again.
DOT is still showing up, Diane.
Pardon me? All I see is Corey Auerbach has started screen sharing. Does anybody else see anything else?
Hmm.
I see what you see, Diane, with the circle of death going. Just keep going.
Mhm. So it might
Well,
take a minute or
mean,
two, Corey, because of there's
yeah.
a lot of people on the call.
Well, I'll stop the screen share. Maybe my colleague Ari Goldberg can share his screen. In any event, I apologize for the technical difficulties. So Safe Store is very excited to propose a state-of-the-art self-storage facility at 390 Cayuga Road. This is, to orient you, this is across from the airport. It would be south of Cleveland. And
Oh, now we can see it.
great, thanks, Ari. And so south of Cleveland, north of Maryvale, west of Princeton. There is an existing approximately 30,000 square foot warehouse at this facility, which would be replaced by the proposal. If you want to continue through, Ari, I'd like to show the landscape plan. So again, as part of this proposal, we'll be replacing the existing building, and we are proposing substantial landscaping to offset the impacts of the proposal, which will include one-to-one tree replacement, relocating many of the existing trees, and literally thousands of ground cover and hundreds of shrubs. So we've really gone above and beyond as far as the landscaping to increase the curb appeal. The building is very attractive. If you want to proceed through to the renderings, we have an architectural elevation with the plan, but I think that the renderings actually show it best. This is the view of the building from Cayuga. It's a very attractive building. And the use is expressly permitted in the district. We will require one minor variance for this proposal. We've oriented the building so that it encroaches slightly into the 25-foot front yard. So we will be asking for a 6-foot front yard variance. This was strategic to keep the building as far away from the rear yards of the homes on Princeton as possible. There will be a 6-foot fence that will surround the site, and again, substantial site landscaping. This is the first time that anyone from the town has seen the project. This is really our introduction this evening. We will be proceeding to the Environmental Advisory Council and the Planning Board for a recommendation on the site plan, as well as the Zoning Board of Appeals for the aforementioned variance. But we're excited about this project. We wanted to show it to you, town board members, see if you had any questions that we could answer or any suggestions, modifications. Again, we will, of course, be back before this board. Again, this is just a kickoff, and wanted to bring you into the project and tell you how excited we are to bring this self-storage facility to the town of Cheektowaga.
How far away is that from the residents on Princeton's property line?
The building, I believe it's about 60 feet. Let me look at the dimension. It's a little hard to see. So the setback from the rear yards on Princeton, bear with me just one moment. It's a little bit over 60 feet, 63.25 feet.
And there's no parking back there, correct?
There's not parking. There is a drive aisle there. So again, the idea was to offset the impacts to the rear yards with the 6-foot fence and the substantial landscaping that we're proposing. Sort of.
And what about like windows, or are there any windows in that back area of the building?
There's a sliding glass door in the back.
Okay.
Sort of like you would see at a supermarket.
But not on the second or third floor, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, because I remember there was a developer wanted to put in a 4-story apartment building complex, and the neighbors had a problem about, people peering into their windows and also because it was so high. So hopefully this might be more acceptable to them because it's just an office building, and really, it's not like people are in there all the time if it's a storage facility, correct?
Exactly right. And programmatically, it's staffed during business hours. It really does look like an office building, I think.
It does. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's an attractive design, and an experienced developer. And they've really, in my view, and I hope Mr. Beeman agrees with me, they've really gone above and beyond as it relates to the landscaping package for this proposal.
Mhm. But yes, it looks so much nicer, and I hope that those residents will be much happier with this project than the apartment complex that was supposed to go back there, behind them or on Cayuga Road. Any
Great.
board members?
Okay, Linda, looks like we got some trees.
Yeah, finally.
Yep.
I'd like to ask a question about what kind of items are stored in this building? Is it furniture, cars, all kinds of?
Right. So it would be the types of things that would be inside of your home. So it is a self-storage facility, all indoor climate controlled. So it's not hazardous materials storage or anything like that. This is indoor climate controlled self-storage individual units that people can lease.
Now, how do you get the items in there?
So there's 2 entrances. There's one along Cayuga, and then the sliding glass door that I mentioned. Most of the time, people will be making deliveries on the front of the building at the Cayuga entrance. They can also access the facility from the rear by entering through those sliding glass doors. But people will have the ability to access the facility not only during the business hours when there will be actual staff there, but they will use an electronic key card system in the event that someone needs access to their belongings outside of the time that the facility is staffed.
So that's 24/7?
Essentially.
It is. And then the in the rear of the building, you're going to have people loading and unloading and cars and trucks back there?
There will be the opportunity to do that on the rear of the building, yes.
Yeah, see, that would interfere, I think, with the people that live, I believe it's Princeton back there?
Yeah, it is Princeton. So, again, if someone is coming in, if there is a if someone is moving and renting a box truck or something, in all likelihood, that's going to access the front of the facility, which is arranged for that. If somebody does need to access the facility, they can do so through the rear, but the 6-foot fence and the substantial landscape buffer that we're proposing is, to avoid any impacts from headlights or from noise. So the intent of that is to offset, the potential. This is zoned M1, so there could be much more. There could be much more intense use of the site than what's proposed. Really, what you're going to have is there will be times when people will be, moving out of an apartment or a house and storing their bringing their belongings to the storage facility.
Yeah.
That's going to happen during business hours for the most part. And then in the chance that someone needs access to their belongings, they can come, park, and then access the facility using their key card to obtain whatever belongings they need to retrieve.
Now, will this building be monitored? Will there be cameras inside and out?
I'm actually going to ask one of the representatives. I'm not sure as to how the internal monitoring is done. I suspect that there is significant safety monitoring. I don't know if Jim Bob or Jim Burt want to speak to how the security features work.
Yes, there are security cameras and the site is monitored. And the main entrances and loading areas are monitored via camera. So that way, those areas can be looked after and there to use it. And the people that are there can feel secure about accessing facilities and know that their items are secure there.
Okay, just one other thing. How many properties actually border this whole project? Does anyone know?
Yeah, I can give you an idea of that. So it looks like there are 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, about 14. And the rear, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. On the north, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, so that's 10. And then there's 3 technically to the south.
Okay. So all these people will be notified when there's a public hearing. Will there be a public hearing?
There will be before the Zoning Board of Appeals. Because we do need that 6-foot front yard variance to authorize the proposal.
But they will all be notified? Diane?
I assume they are, right? If it's through the zoning board of appeals.
I don't know who notifies. I don't know who does.
Yes, I believe they are
Jesse
notified.
is on the call. Jesse, can you answer that question, please?
Hi, Diane. It's Jesse. Linda, yes, all the residents will be notified anytime there's a variance. Residents will be notified that are adjacent to the development site.
Correct. And you turn those names over, or you give them to Jill, is it, or Kim, or?
I work with Joyce, so I'll process the application and then Joyce gets it. She puts it in the Cheektowaga Bee and she sends out to adjacent neighbors.
Okay, so there's approximately 20 some neighbors then that are affected.
Yep.
Okay, all right, thank you. That's all I needed.
Any
Brian
other
Polanski here.
questions? Oh,
Yeah,
Brian
quick
Polanski, go ahead. Go ahead,
I just
Brian.
want to clarify, all those parking spots around the building are for customers that have storage inside the facility. None of them will be used for storage of RVs, cars, or motorboats for exterior storage.
That's my understanding, and Jim Bob, correct me if my understanding is wrong.
Yeah, we will. There will not be any outdoor storage at this facility.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Oh, looks like a nice, clean operation.
I agree.
Well thought out.
Yes, council member, because I was here when the original project wanted to go in. It was not good. The residents weren't happy. At least they'll have more privacy this way and it won't be as busy as having an apartment complex, a 4-story, let alone. So this is high, but it's not as high as the other one. And at least there's no higher windows looking into their backyards. And there's a lot of greenery on this project too, which I like. Okay, well, I appreciate the presentation. So, and we were the first ones to get to see the site plan as drafted up, or the elevation. So I appreciate that. That looks really nice.
Thank you all. Thank you again to Jesse for all your assistance with helping us get this submitted during this difficult time. And we're now going to proceed to work with our friends at the Environmental Advisory Council, Planning Board, Zoning Board, and then we'll come back and see you again.
Okay, thank you. Thanks,
Thank
Corey.
you.
Thanks,
Okay. Next, we have a proposed credit union at 1270 Harlem Road.
Yes. Hello, this is Lori Howard-LaDuke. I apologize. I'm borrowing my son Matthew's computer, so I'm represented as Matthew LaDuke. But I appreciate your time this evening. I had the pleasure of speaking with Jesse and some of the building department prior to this meeting to discuss 1270 Harlem. And I don't know if Jesse was able to have that on your screen there for you guys to see. I had sent a site plan, but basically I have been asked by my
Hey, Lori.
Hi, Jesse.
Lori, it's Jesse.
Yeah.
Kim, if you could make me a host to share the screen, I'll pull up her site plan and also have a bird's eye view with Google Earth.
Perfect. We can see it.
Yes, okay, this is very helpful. So this site is of interest to my client for the purpose of constructing a credit union branch. So the location of the building would be very close to where you're seeing the current, I believe it was a gas station. And this property is bounded on both street sides by an Erie County easement or owned by Erie County, and also a strip of land owned by the New York State for the thruway. So about 30 feet in depth along both street sides is owned by Erie County or New York State. So the property itself doesn't quite hold the corner, but it ends up being a corner site due to the fact that it's the only buildable site to the corner. Is it possible to put the site plan on?
Yeah, I pulled it up, Lori. Can you see it?
I don't see it yet.
Hold on 1 second.
There we go. Awesome. Thank you very much.
You got
So
it.
on this drawing, the top portion has a lot of the setbacks listed, which I started with initially. So on the left side of the drawing is basically a study of what is the buildable area of this site, taking into consideration setbacks from both streets, parking, building, when you have a two-way drive, et cetera, to have an understanding of, for my client, how much space is there that could be used for the building. So in talking with Jesse and the building department planners a couple weeks ago, we identified that the front would be considered Harlem, the rear of the setback would be considered Dingens Park, and then Dingen Street and the throughway would be considered side setbacks. So with that said, all those setbacks that you see on that first site plan are in respect of what the zoning ordinance requires for each. So the second site plan to the right is sort of a test footprint that we had prepared for I had prepared for our client with a basic program that she had given me. And we are able to fit her an appropriate size building in there for her, and the parking, and accommodated a one-way 2-lane drive for a drive up, dedicated first lane for an ATM night deposit, and then the other outside lane for a teller, which is really paramount for them because during this crisis, they actually are not even open. Their floor, their interior space isn't open unless it's by appointment. So it's very critical that they would be able to obtain the special use permit for a drive up for, whatever site they're able to acquire. But they're very excited about this location. And so at this juncture, we're sort of in these conceptual studies to see that that this site could work. From what, let me just pull up what I understand might be needed for this development. The front yard being Harlem Road, the parking setback would be 25 feet, and we are 13'3" to the edge of the drive. The parking is well within that dash line, but in order to access that parking, there would have to be a variance for that drive. And again, it's essentially much farther away from the road because of the 30-foot wide land owned by the state. So really, the first edge of our drive is about 43 feet away from the road. So that sort of helps it that there is still this clear space separation from the edge of the road that really does set this whole building back further than otherwise. The rear yard is Dingens Park. Because of your section 260-59 supplemental lot size for corners, that would have to be a 50-foot setback to the building, and we have with this design 40 feet. So that would be a potential variance in that direction. And then let's see, our vehicle queue, we have existing curb cuts that exist on this site that we would try to utilize actually. So as farther as at the farthest extreme as we possibly could use for the approach to the drive-through, and then to exit onto Harlem and or go back around the building and exit back onto Dingens. So it has a pretty high circulation, and with the attempt to use the existing curb cuts for those. And the only other thing I could see in looking through this, the minimum length of queue per your zoning is 8 cars per teller lane, and 2 lanes times 8, that would be 16 cars. And we are showing 13 cars at the length of car per your zoning, which in the past, I've done a lot of financial institutions over the past 20 years, and they would be very excited if they had 8 cars per drive up. Actually, they usually have about 3 to 4. So hopefully that might be full. And of course, the only other thing I found out, of course, we need a special use permit for the drive-through itself. So again, this is our sort of first analysis of what we believe would be needed for this site. And my client would just want to have a little, your thoughts on whether you thought this would be a nice use of this property. Single floor building, very, aesthetically pleasing, nothing, maybe the entrance would have a little bit taller feature to say here, this is where you enter, but nothing out of scale with the neighborhood.
I think it's a beautiful project that rather than what's there now, or it looks like it's been abandoned for a while, correct?
Yeah, it does look that, I think so. And we did have a copy of the phase 1 report, and all of the tanks had been removed. So it's already had that process. They may consider doing a phase 2. I let them know that that's something they might want to consider to make sure there's no hazardous materials left in the soil that may need to be removed. But I just want to let them know all of the costs as they pursue if they want to acquire the property or not.
Beautiful, beautiful compared to what was there, and it'll be an addition or an asset to the neighborhood, I feel.
Oh, great.
And
they're very excited about it. They love the location.
Especially since it's right by the park. It's all residential. I see some homes there looking at your map, and there is some development. Now, will you need rezoning because it's auto body right now or motor service?
No, actually it fits the zoning, a commercial zoning.
Oh, commercial it is? Okay.
Yeah, we're all set with that.
Retail business.
Oh, okay. Good.
There's a temporary use permit for motor service currently.
Yes. Okay, good. So we can get rid of that and you can put up something nicer. That's my opinion. Any other board members?
Yes, Brian Nowak here. I'm taking a look at the site, and I think the idea of a credit union here is wonderful. Traffic exiting the site onto Harlem Road, especially attempting to head north. Have there been traffic studies done? Has there been, discussions, thoughts on that, plans for traffic studies? Because of the proximity to the highway there, I just have some concerns about the increase in traffic coming out of there and the potential for accidents.
No, that's a very good point. I think that could be viewed as like a right hand only. And then if someone needed to get back to the intersection, they could loop back around the front of the property and then exit onto Dingens and then go left or right from there. So I don't think that would impede their clients at all. And it would solve that worry about, making that left turn there as well, at what you're saying.
Right, you know, I have my view on this, and you've got a turning lane there as well going on the Dingens, but if you show me data and evidence to the contrary, I'm all ears, I'm open to it. I just intuitively, I worry about what would happen when you have that traffic coming out.
Sure.
And as far as the customer base for the folks in the credit union, is it open to a certain group of employees for a company? Is it open to anybody that wants to join? How does that work?
Oh, it's anyone.
Okay.
Actually, it's not, yeah, it's open to the public. It's to anyone. Yes.
Anybody else? Comments that we'd be okay to go and move forward? They'll need some variances from the zoning board of appeals, but they seem kind of minor to me. And like I said, it's a good fit, and at least we'll be getting some property tax revenue from it. Also, I always look at that
Yeah.
and sales tax revenue.
Yeah, I think we'll need to update a land, we'll need to see a landscape plan.
Oh, yes. Yes, we'll prepare the full civil plan, the civil drawing set for everyone to review on our next visit. I just wanted to give my client a peace of mind that that you would be on board with that type of use there, because then they would feel better about that as well. So do any of the variances don't seem too horrible to ask for, then I guess is a question.
No, not at all. For something, there's not going to be a lot of traffic. It's not like a retail store.
Right.
It's a banking, and you know, I don't see that, and it's just during the day hours. It's not a food establishment with a drive-through like that.
No, yeah, like they always joke with me over the years, I wish we had the kind of stacking that Tim Hortons has or something. So
yeah, that won't happen.
That doesn't happen, unfortunately. No. So, all right.
Yeah, welcome to the neighborhood.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Yes, Lori. Tell them we liked it. We liked
I will
it.
tell them. So we'll be back again with some more plans and elevations and all that good stuff. And I appreciate your time.
And thank you for investing in Cheektowaga. We really appreciate that.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
You too. Very nice. Okay, let's move on to our town board resolutions. If you want to bring your packets out. We do have a public hearing tonight. Brian Kraus will be presenting the benefit basis budget and the ad valorem budget. Okay. Then we will have resolution 1 is the transfer of funds. Any questions on that? The warrant is on resolution 2. 3 is the call for the public hearing at 6386 Transit Row. That's the Young Development. Remember, he did a presentation to the board several weeks ago. So now we're calling for the actual public hearing. That's up the project up Transit near Genesee. Then we're going to be accepting the site plan for the for the Delta Sonic expansion. That's the Walden Avenue, Schlenker Drive. We already did the rezoning and the negative seeker. And the same thing is resolution 5 is the Eris Ice Cream Shop. We did the other 2 resolutions, and we just need to accept the site plan. Okay, number 6 is the acceptance of the settlement offer for 8 Del Rey Drive. Rachel is on the call if anybody has any questions about that. Okay. 7 is our proclamation of November 28th, 2020 as Small Business Saturday. We have done this every year. They've asked us to do it again, so I had put that in. Does anybody have a problem with that? I think more than ever, we need to support our small businesses in town. That's the Saturday after Thanksgiving. 8 is our annual public GIS services agreement. 9 is to retain technical consulting services. Lisa Bolognese is on the phone if anybody has any questions. Some of these are pertaining to the CARES Act funding that we have to get moving on. So that's why there's so many of them all at once. And number 10 would be to retain technology consultant for the Wi-Fi review and upgrade, since we need that for some of the extras for remote access. $11 is virtual training for town employees, since we are putting in equipment in some conference rooms to hold more remote meetings, and also any remote access. There's a virtual training for our employees. Again, covered with the CARES Act money. And then 12, again, our CARES Act money to purchase the equipment for remote access. And then 13 is upgrading the conference room facilities for virtual conferences. Lisa's been doing quite a bit of work. And 14 is the email filter software renewal, which I feel is very important. 15, the technical services and camera environment upgrade. Again, covered under the CARES Act. And then our annual service agreement with Eagle Systems for, I believe, our copiers. Yes, copy machines. Thank you, Lisa. With all those resolutions, you were busy. We're going on to our extend our agreement with Waste Management. That's our solid waste contract, resolution 17. Anybody have any questions on that? 18 is the authorizing of the memorandum of understanding with the Office of Real Property Tax Service. I see Jill Murphy is on the call. Does anybody have any questions about that?
Hey, Diane,
Yes.
back on 17, was there an additional cost? Did they go up in our fees?
Yeah, maybe Scott Cowell or Brian Krauson, or maybe John Dujak.
Councilmember Resniak, it's if you see in the resolution, it is dependent on the, I always get the terminology wrong. The CPI, so to speak. We have the 5-year option, but it is going to be dependent on that CPI, and Brian can talk to that more than I can.
All right.
Yeah, I researched it and had sent you guys an email of what it was at the time. Like a 3 weeks ago, it was around 3.5% of an increase at the moment. So generally, it's it hovers around 3%, I think.
Yeah, I mean, they're the only game in town right now, so we really don't have a choice.
Right.
But it's not bad.
And that's an important point. What Councilmember just said, they're the only game in town, so it's not like we have 55 options to choose from.
Anybody else? Okay, so we're moving on to 18. Was the Jill Murphy's resolution with the Office of Real Property Tax Service. I did have a question just to make sure that if we do sign up with them, we don't have to do a full townwide reassessment every year. The next one would have to be in 4 years, correct? Or
That's correct.
It could be our option, correct?
That's correct, yes. Because they would like you to keep up with the project, but if, say we get 4 years out and the funding isn't there to do a townwide, they're not going to require it.
Okay, what about if we don't do a townwide in the next year, they're going to do that spot? They require us to do that? based on sales?
No, I can let you know about next year when we get to next year. I'll bring the figures to you so that I'll present them to everybody so that you know if there's any changes in any neighborhoods and, whether or not we need to make changes or not. I'll bring that to the board ahead of time.
But are we required to do that?
No, we're not.
If we sign this agreement? Okay.
No, pretty much what they're going to do is give us, if there's any monies available, they will give us up to $5 per parcel. And all the work that they're requiring, I'm already doing. So it kind of makes sense just for me to do a little extra paperwork and get assistance if we can.
Absolutely. Yes. I just wanted to make sure what we're tying ourselves into.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay. 19 is architectural services for the new elevator at the Alexander Community Center. Does anybody have any questions on that? That's based on the some of the money we received from Monica Wallace. Through
That
the
is the money?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Supervisor. So that's the money from Monica?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just not, Brian, I'm not sure if this actual money is from the DASNY to get this elevator going, but we need drawings in order to get the elevator in, correct?
That's correct. I had a conversation with Paul Pivovarsky today. He said it is not part of the Monica Wallace money. There is money in a capital project related for this.
But in order to start using the Monica Wallace money, we need the architectural drawings. So
Absolutely, yes.
we have to get this done. We're just worried that that money will go away. So we want to get it going sooner than later. Okay, so that's in our capital project fund. Okay. Does that help you, Council Member Adamczak? Are you okay with
Yes.
that? Okay, good.
Yes.
And the resolution 20 is the purchase of cyber security insurance. Questions? 21, purchase of multifunction units for various departments. And then we're going on to terminations. Karen Marchese, are you on?
Yes, I am. We
Okay,
have
go ahead.
termination of part-time employees, of an employee in the police department. We're catching up from February, and a position or a person in senior services who left October 1st. Resolution 23 is the appointment of a MEOB in the sanitation department based on bidding, David Surde, and that started yesterday. Scott did request a start date of Monday. He likes to start them on the beginning of the route days. Resolution 24 is the appointment of a records inventory clerk in the Department of Information Technology and Records Management, Daniel Griebner. I apologize for that. And Lisa Bolognese did interview quite a number of people for this position and selected Mr. Griebner based on not only his current skill base, but also his ideas for the Records Inventory Center. So he has a start date of November 9th based on current employment. Does anybody have any questions about those resolutions? Thank you.
Okay, and then we have the one item under our waiver items, a suspension of rules. I hope everybody got that. It's the purchase and installation of the 2 replacement wastewater pumps at the Roy Croft Pump Station. Ray Bobeck felt that it's important that we purchase those now because there was some deal being offered by Xylem where we purchased these from. I think Rick Rushiniak has been in touch also with Ray Bobeck, and we felt that it was important that we get this done, but before the end of
This is big on our infrastructure. This is something with this new program we're putting in for the sewers to handle this material. And the stuff we got's dated, old. It's time to upgrade and keep this project moving.
Any questions on it? Okay, good. So with that being said, we'll come back at 7 o'clock and for the regular board meeting. I will
Are we
see if
using the
later.
same link then?
Pardon me?
Are we using the same link then?
Madam Clerk, did you send us a new invite for the regular meeting, or are we coming back to this meeting? Hold on, maybe she's looking.
I couldn't send you a new link while this one was still going.
We can
in the
come back to
program?
this one if you want us to.
Correct, we can put it on pause for a few minutes.
Why
and
don't
come
you
back
put it
at
on
7:00.
pause and then just start a new YouTube when we enter the regular meeting then?
That's fine.
Is that all right? So everybody, we will come back, or if you just want to stay on and mute yourself and turn your video off, take a break, and